Welcome, everyone. Today is Wednesday, the 13th of May, 2026, and this is the Cluster API office hours. Cluster API is a sub-project to Kubernetes SIGs, and as such, we follow their meeting guidelines, which can basically be summarized as please treat everyone as you would expect to be treated, or explicitly so, please be excellent to each other. And if you have a question, please raise your hand and I will call on you. At the beginning of our meetings, we like to have a chance for new attendees to kind of introduce themselves to the community. So if that sounds like something you would like to do, I will be quiet for a few seconds here. Please feel free to unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Aman. So I've been involved with Cluster API for quite a while. I've been a release lead for last two cycles, 12 and 13. But now I want to get more technically involved with the Cluster API project. So thought office hour would be the right place to start.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the meeting, Aman, and thank you for all the work you've done on the release team. Is there anyone else?
Hello. Yep. Hello, everyone. My name is Anwar. I'm new to Cluster API release team, and I thought that it can be a good chance to also get introduced to Cluster API project from the technical side. And that's it. Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Welcome, Omar, and thank you to you as well for getting involved with our release team.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else you'd like to say hello? Okay, then we will move into the next part of our agenda, which is the open proposal readouts. Do we have anyone here who'd like to talk about either of the open proposals, the independent worker topology or the external CA insert sign? All right, not seeing anyone unmuting. So we will move on to our agenda. And it looks like I see Fabrizio in chat now, so that's good. Fabrizio, you've got the first topic here, so please take it away.
Hey, sorry for being late. Thank you, Mike, for taking over the handling the meeting as usual. So, okay, so yesterday there was a Kubernetes patch release 136.1, 35.5, 34.8, and 33.12. Okay, all those releases include a change in kubeadmin certificates. Okay, and the PR is linked. So if you want, what happened due to this change, which is both in kubeadmin init and kubeadmin upgrade, etc., what happened is that if you are using copy, an older version of copy, and you try to upgrade to one of the Kubernetes patch release in that list, release of the one, join will fail. Okay, because also copy and more specifically KCP and KVK or KCP have to basically replicate the same change that has been implemented in kubeadmin. Okay, we implemented the corresponding fix in KCP and KVK, and we released today 3 patch release of copy that allows you to upgrade to the above Kubernetes version. So this is an heads up for everyone. If you want to use the greatest and the latest version from Kubernetes, you also have to use the greatest and the latest for copy. Otherwise, join will fail. Yeah, maybe I should add also a release note, something in the troubleshooting page upstream, but this is happening very fast. And I want also to give a huge kudo to the release team, which stepped up and happily and successfully released the copy patch release. This is their own first release of the cycle, and they managed the change of schedule. Release was scheduled for the next week with a great teamwork. So kudos to the release team. And I stop if there is someone that has a question about kubeadmin change and the corresponding copy fix. Please go on.
Yeah, if anyone's got questions about this, please feel free. I'm not seeing any hands going.
Okay, so I had just another note about today's copy release. So in copy 113.2, we also included a KCP improvement to handle a kubeadmin. Oh, maybe the link is wrong for this one. I will check. But we also handle another KCP improvement to handle an error that might happen on kubeadmin join. And it is basically if kubeadmin join fails for some reason, then remediation happen. In some cases, etcd member were not cleaned up properly. And now this is fixed as well. There is a little explanation in the code. So yeah, another reason to pick up the latest copy, this copy version.
All right. Anyone have questions on that part? All right. I'm not seeing any hands going up. I guess do you want to give another kudos to the release team? I feel like we can never give enough kudos to the release team.
Yes.
Okay. If there's no other questions or comments on this, we'll move on to the next topic, which is Satyam with a blog guide about CAPI workarounds. So please, Satyam.
Hey everyone. Yeah, so I have not been active in the CAPI community call for a few weeks now, but I had shared this blog before on the CAPI and the Slack channel, and I've got a couple of reviews from a few community people. But yeah, whenever you have time, please take a look at this one. And I'm asking mainly the maintainers as well on the the machine pool working group side. Yeah, and the last question to the maintainers maybe is if you find it fit to be published alongside CAPI, how can I get it published and where? If you have any thoughts on that.
Satyam, your mic is a little bit quiet, but it sounded like you were curious what would be the best way to get this published. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So I guess one place that it could be published is on the Kubernetes developer blog. That certainly would be one location that we could work through to get it published. And I'd be happy to follow up in Slack with you if you wanted some more information about how to contribute a blog to the Kubernetes developer blog. I'm not sure if we have a special location for cluster API related materials. I don't know. Fabrizio or Stefan, do we have something like that?
No. So for blogs, we don't have a blog basically. When I've published something about CAPI, I usually publish it on the Kubernetes blog.
All right.
And in the SIG docs documentation, even in the Kubernetes main documentation, there are links to how to do the process. But definitely, I think that before going there, you need to get feedback from the people working on machine pools.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, I guess Satyam, does that give you some good ideas for next steps there?
Yes, yep, thank you.
All right, cool. Yeah, and I think I think in general I read the blog and it's pretty nice. It's certainly something that I could see being added to the Kubernetes developer blogs. But I think Fabrizio has probably got a good suggestion there. Maybe if we can get some of the machine pool experts to take a look, that would help kind of with the final reviews and everything. Okay. If there's no other comments or questions about this, I will move on to the next topic. Okay. So the next topic is from me. I've been following the conversation around topology and workload aware scheduling, and I'm not sure if folks here have been following it or not, but um, there was a big design summit previous to the last KubeCon, and there's been a lot of discussion around how to make workload aware scheduling um, a more prominent feature in Kubernetes. And some of this is being predicated based on the needs of more machine learning style workloads, or these LLM workloads where things like gang scheduling become very important, and also topology becomes very important to how um, you know nodes are created or where workloads are placed. So I wanted to share a couple documents here that are coming mostly from the auto scaling side of things. That's been a lot of my introduction into this, although I know there's work happening in the scheduler and whatnot as well. And I wanted to, I guess, start us thinking about this from the cluster API perspective. One of the big I guess one of the big things that I've seen come out of this is where, styles of workflows where a workload might come in and want to schedule a group of nodes that all share the same rack. Or they want to be able to schedule nodes that have some sort of special topology associated with them. And in general, the way that the autoscalers work in relation to this is that, they'll look at nodes in the cluster and then they'll attempt to make a prediction about what type of nodes they could create to satisfy a workload. But part of, I think it was this document is starting to talk about some new APIs that would help applications understand what type of capacity they could have. So you could imagine if I have an application that needs to run and it needs to have machines that are all on the same rack and it needs to have storage that's on the same rack, I need to know that that's available before I start requesting those nodes in the cloud provider. Um, and I was thinking about this from the cluster API perspective, and I'm guessing, you know, perhaps we already have something like this. Perhaps you could make a machine deployment now that was scoped in such a way where on a specific cloud provider, that machine deployment would only create nodes in a single rack or whatever. But I really wanted to just open the conversation up and see if there had been any discussion or any thoughts about how we might interface with these styles of scheduling or these styles of kind of predictive information about the cluster. Does anybody have thoughts about that, or has anybody kind of looked into these areas?
I have a question, a quick one. So what we are talking about is not workload placement, but it is machine placement.
Right. Yeah. So like the workload has a dependency on the machine placement, basically.
Mm.
The workload wants to be able to specify an underlying topology that when nodes are created, they should adhere to those topological constraints. So yeah, it is kind of about machine placement.
Yeah. Okay. Uh,
And maybe this is a non-issue. Maybe it's just a matter of specifying your machine deployments correctly or your machine sets or pools, and that would kind of solve things. I just didn't know if we had kind of thought about this at all or looked into it.
I go with my point of view. So Cluster API has a very simple notion of placement, of machine placement, which is based on zones, okay, and on failure domain, sorry. Uh, um, and the notion of failure domain is pretty simple. So it is only for initial placement. There is no, we call them failure domain, but nothing happens if it fails. So there is no, let me say, second day management, which I do expect from a failure domain. What happens when a failure domain goes down? I would expect the machine to be scheduled away, but is not handled is not handled in a clean way. The next side of the story is that this failure domain is, as a concept, is fairly abstract, and it is basically up to the specific infrastructure provider to make sure that this failure domain maps to some constraint like host, rack, building, region, and yeah, there could be many flavors of this. So
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. So that's what we have today. We have something, in my opinion, is very simple. I'm not entirely sure if it could be good enough for the sophistication that AI jobs require, or the kind of requirement that I see floating around. At the same time, there is a really a lack of standard on those concepts in the various in the various cloud provider. Not to mention that if you go to bare metal or other type of visualization, is yeah, everyone has its own concept of topology.
Right.
So this makes the problem complicated.
No, absolutely. And this is like currently in Kubernetes, yeah, like the differences between different clouds, for example, I'm not trying to pick on anyone here, but like, on GCP, you have one set of labels for like, the what rack something is in and what network block it's on. And on AWS, you would have a different set of labels that kind of give the same information. And so like currently in Kubernetes, we the workloads that want to do this type of scheduling, they'll put certain constraints that like, oh, like the rack value has to be the same on every workload. All the nodes have to have the same rack value or something. And that's been okay up until this time. But now I think what we're starting to see, or at least what people are requesting, is the ability to, schedule workloads, especially gang scheduling a workload, meaning that the entire workload needs to be scheduled atomically. You can't schedule part of it and then, wait for the other part to be scheduled. So like in those scenarios, there are new constraints coming. And I want, what you're saying makes total sense to me, Fabrizio. And it might be the case that in Cluster API, this is just a matter of crafting the right scalable resource, on whatever provider you're on, and that would do it for you. I think the more difficult part from Cluster API is kind of the predictive side of it. Like, how would I know? Let's say I had a machine deployment that somehow was scoped to the topology I wanted to. Is there a way that I could know ahead of time that I would be able to scale it up to some number of replicas? Or do I just need to try it and see what happens?
Yeah, we don't have a notion of capacity, reserve capacity, max capacity. Native in Cluster API. We have something similar if you apply autoscaler labels. But yeah, I think I don't know if it will be enough. I have to read the two documents, but
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not looking for solutions today. I more wanted to bring the concept and share it with, share it with this community, because I think like I'm already starting to see users asking for more, more features of kind of bleeding edge Kubernetes around this type of workload aware scheduling. And we're making heavy use of cluster API. So it's one of those things where I'm trying to figure out where the gaps may be, if there even are gaps. So yeah, happy to share this, and maybe we'll talk about it again in a future meeting. Does anybody else have questions or comments about this topic before I move on? Okay, then we will move into the provider updates. First one's from me. We had a KubeMark provider update, getting embarrassingly slow, but we're finally up to Cluster API 1.11, and hopefully we'll do a 1.12 release coming up soon. We're using this in the Cluster API Carpenter provider to do testing in our end-to-end suite. So trying to push things there. And Matt, you've got a CAP-Z update.
Yeah, we pushed out another minor release, and we're caught up with CAPI 113.1, and we'll have a patch release for 113.2 soon. And there's some other changes, but that's probably the only interesting thing for this community.
Cool, sounds good. Definitely showing off your 1.13 compatibility. I need to get there with KubeMark. All right, that is the end of our regular agenda for today. So if anybody has ad hoc topics they would like to bring up, I'll give a minute for that since we have some time. And if not, then we'll take about 30 minutes of our day back here. So going once, going twice. All right, we will call it a meeting. Thanks for coming out, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Mike.